Hey Jay, it's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a Friday morning and the sun is shining. I'm breathing. I'm happy
Hmm,
to be here and excited to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
beautiful, beautiful. That's a great one. Happy Friday. Okay, Jay, you see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. But before I get there, I want to thank you for two things, and I do this so often to all of my guests. So, Jim, firstly, I want to say thank you for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, Jim, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. I say some months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it. The leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Jim, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. See, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Can you still hear me?
I hear you perfect.
Oh, okay, beautiful. And I got so close to it and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it. And you say the leaves are now so beautiful, the branches healthy. It was a beautiful moment that day. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Jim that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you see you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your work, your philosophies, your insight, and the impact what you're doing is having. It's amazing. And just before you got the text from me, I said to myself, I've got to bring this great James to this show. I've got to learn one or two things from him. Not only me now, but even my audience. And here we are today with the amazing James. So thank you so very much, James, for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing I could do about it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I think that we'll have a great conversation.
Me too. Beautiful. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, I believe it takes the application of knowledge. Not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, Jim, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very, very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Jim on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, Jim, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, high opening, and very important information, of which I'm totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Jim, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Jim got here. And afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Jim, over to you.
So it's interesting. There's an old notion out there that people are born leaders. I don't subscribe to that thought. I believe people may have a desire to be a leader, but I don't think the characteristics people are just born with. And I'm a good example of that. The leadership the way I lead today is far different than the way I led when I first got out of college. In fact, I look back on those days and I think about how horrible of a leader I was. and how I didn't understand people and their own needs and was selfish in thinking of my or company needs in the process. And so to me, leadership, as with any learning, is a never-ending process. We will continue to learn and develop and invest in ourselves if we have the desire to do that. And if you have the desire to do that, you will be successful at growing and developing skills that you never thought you were capable of. And from my perspective, a lot of these skills are not hard to implement, but it takes focus to implement them. But once you do, you'll see a big difference in the way that you lead and the way that people will follow.
That's so true. That's right. And that's one of the great traits of a true leader, being a continuous learner. A continuous learner. I got that. So, since you mentioned that, can you talk to us about the pillars of effective leadership?
So when I set out a year ago, I've been, let me step back a second. I've been mentoring people for probably 25 years or more, in addition to working. And while all of them were very, very smart people, some had advanced degrees, many of them didn't understand the human side of leadership. Some people thought that leadership began when you sat down at the desk and somebody walks into your office. And that's not correct. Leadership begins when you step out of bed in the morning and or your first encounter at the office or even in the parking lot with anyone from the organization, whether they work for you or not. A leader is a 24/7 24 hours, 7 days a week job. And everything that we do has to follow a certain, what I would call, protocol. And so a year ago, I started to think about the characteristics that have made me the leader that I am. And I came up with a pretty healthy list. And then I thought the list was too long. So I narrowed that list down to 6 pillars that anybody can implement to be a better leader right from the get-go. And I tell stories along the way to help emphasize the impact it has had in a situation or the impact it's had on me in a situation. And so when we dig into the 6 pillars, they all have a purpose. They're not used all the time. Some are used in certain situations, but they all have a human aspect to it in that they can all help build a better, closer, more productive team.
Awesome, I got that. Okay, but can you talk to us about maybe any of these pillars? Maybe just one?
Let's start with the most important one, integrity. To me, integrity is the cornerstone. Well, I would put it different. If this was a statue and not a building, integrity would be the base of the statue. It is the concreteness that you need in order to be able to support the other 5 pillars and also to be able to build trust within your organization. If you're, as a leader, not consistent with your own decision making, and as I describe it is, if you're going down the road, you're always in the center of the road. You're never on the left curb, you're never on the right curb. You're always making decisions based on the center of the road, whatever the ultimate goal is in mind. And so whether that's a human behavior or a human issue, or whether that's a work issue, you can't deviate from that. By having a rock solid integrity backbone, you will build unlimited trust from your team, which is most important. If your team does not believe that you have integrity, they will not follow, they will not be committed, and they will ultimately not be the most productive people you'd want on your team. So it really starts with looking at yourself and what you can do to make people believe that you're there with them to help them to have their back and to succeed together.
Awesome. And that's a great one. And I love your approach. But you see, I believe, just like you mentioned about the leaders of a thing, but my own perspective as to that is I believe everyone has the, should I say, ability to be a leader, but not everyone would make use of it. Just the way inside a seed is trapped the tree. But if the seed doesn't stay or happen to be in the right position, under the right soil, getting necessary sunlight and water, it will never become a tree. But that doesn't change the fact that it has the ability to grow into a tree. So I think many of us are leaders, but not all of us will become a leader for some reasons, for different reasons and various whys, but I got that too. So let us talk about most successful people had a tragedy or had a tragedy to overcome. You know, many successful people has gone through a lot of challenges, and that's what we go through all days in our lives. So, what are some challenges that you've gone through, and how did you overcame them, overcome them?
So, as a young child, at 8 years old, we had a tragedy in our family. I lost a brother in the Vietnam War, which was devastating to my
So
parents.
sorry.
Um, it really changed the family dynamic. My brother, who was drafted into the military, had become a tradesman after college and he didn't go to college. After high school, he became a tradesperson and he was working, but it made him subject for the draft, unlike individuals who went to college. My parents the whole family did not take the situation well. There were many nights my dad, who was hit the hardest, couldn't even face the rest of us. He was so fraught with stress and anxiety over losing a son. And my mom, who's a rock, and my mom turns 100 years old in 2 weeks. And she was the backbone and is the backbone of the family. And I once asked her, Mom, how did you help get us through that? And she said, I realized that it hit your dad the hardest, but I also realized I had 3 other kids that I needed to raise. And so I focused on you. And she did a great job of raising us. And they also let the foundation be set for our futures by my dad making the statement that you will not have a choice. You will go to college. We don't know how we'll pay for it, but you will go to college. So I knew then and there that college had to be in my future, which it was. I was thinking of, what do I want to be? My dad happened to have been a carpenter, and carpenters use their hands, and my dad is right-handed. And I knew I would never be a carpenter because my dad never let me use the power tools, because he always saw me doing things backwards to him and he thought that was dangerous. So I knew I wouldn't be a carpenter. So I knew I would have to either, become a doctor, a lawyer, enter the business world or whatever. But the pathway was set for me to be forced into a direction of going towards higher learning and higher education. And so overcoming that opened up opportunities as well. My dad was very active in the community we grew up in. I was active in the community we grew up in. And the year I graduated college, I was actually elected to be a city official, a city councilman in a small town in northern New Jersey. And that was really my first opportunity to step into a leadership role, and to be in a position where I could interact with not just adults, but decision makers and help move the community forward. Some people might have called getting elected a fluke at 22 years old, but I was also reelected 3 years later. So I must have been doing something right for the community. But it also exposed me to different types of leaders and different things that you'll run into as a leader. And it really is what set the stone for integrity for me, because of the fact that you could be in that situation. Politics can be a dirty sport, and have less than stellar personalities to interact with. And those were rare, and those were very, very rare, but they did happen. However, one encounter I had with the city manager shortly after getting elected, he suggested to me, he said, Jim, I'd like to give you one piece of advice. He said, at night when you go to bed and you put your head on the pillow, before you fall asleep, I want you to ask yourself one question. And that question is, did you do anything today for your own personal or financial gain at the expense of another individual, family, organization, or group? He said, if you can answer no to that question, then you had a good day. We had that conversation in 1982. I ask myself that question every night. And I've never had a day when I've answered that question with a yes. It's always been a no. It was a very powerful learning experience for me to have Don make that comment to me or that suggestion, but it has guided me throughout my professional life. And it is the cornerstone of a foundation I established even with my children. So it's these pillars that we talk about are not just for people in business. They're for teachers, they're for lawyers, they're for doctors, they're for anyone who's got an opportunity to interact with someone. I spoke at a university campus not long ago, and a couple of the professors actually indicated they learned something from my presentation. So again, the 6 pillars help bring it all together, but really it's a self-development journey that you have to commit yourself to.
A self-development journey that you have to commit yourself. I got that. So lastly, let's talk about humor. Okay. What role does humor play in leadership?
So when I think of humor and leadership, I always like to set the stage to be clear. I'm not suggesting a leader has to be a stand-up comedian and tell jokes for 20 or 30 minutes, but rather use humor in various situations. And where I use humor is as an icebreaker at the beginning of a meeting to get people's attention. But I also use it at times of stress and times of conflict to diffuse the emotion that's in the room so that people can focus on the question or problem at hand. All too often, when we get into conflict, we tend to not look to the ultimate solution, and we fail to look through the forest to see the beauty of the trees as to what's happening and what we need to decide. And so I use humor to help people get back and focused on what was the question. It was a great example of that. I had a couple of coworkers who worked on my team back in the 2012 to 2015 stage. And they were having a conflict and discussion in the hallway that started to get escalated in volume. So I invited them in my office, and I broke the ice by using some sort of humor. I don't remember what I said, but I got them at least to smile and to relax a little. And then we started to talk through the issue. And the reality of the conflict that they had was they both were right, but they both were thinking of only their perspective of the solution. If they put the solution together, they had the perfect solution, but they couldn't see the forest through the trees because they were so emotionally so emotionally invested in their own opinion that they couldn't see that. So humor, by breaking the ice, diffusing the situation, getting them back focused on what they were talking about and the question, and having somebody who was not emotionally involved, like me, be able to say to them, well, what if you combine those two things? Wouldn't that not be the perfect solution? And the answer to the question from both of them was yes. And I said, well, why couldn't you get to that conclusion? And they admitted they were too emotionally involved in it. And one of the individuals actually started to cry. And I asked if I had said something that upset them. And they said, no. They just said, their response was, you're just always right. You always get us going down the right path, and you don't sway from that. And we know that, but we failed to apply it in this situation. And she said, that's our fault. Well, it's not their fault. They were emotionally involved. They just needed somebody to come in to recognize what they needed to do to be able to relax and work through it together.
That's a profound one, and thank you for sharing that. And I'll take that as a final thought. So, for folks who would like to reach out to you, Jim, or even ask questions, or make a purchase of your book or your solutions, how can that be possible?
The best place is to go to my website, which is www.jimcarlough, JIMCARLOUGH.com. You can contact me through there. You can purchase my book through the website. If you need to reach out to me directly, you can do that. If you have questions on mentorship or leadership, feel free to do that. Or if you're having trouble finding where to get the book, reach out to me and I can help you with that as well. But that is the actual best way to get a hold of me.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show, Jim. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing this beautiful stuff with us. It means a whole lot, man.
And thank you for having me. This has been most enjoyable.
Thank you.